Good morning, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. Thanks for joining us this morning. As you know, we have these monthly educational webinars that are hosted by AGCO and AGCO Direct, and we covered various topics throughout the year. And one that we keep coming back to is social media. It's requested often by dealers, and so this week we're going to revisit social media. We're going to cover some of the basics, and then Heidi's going to go into using it to tell a story. So Heidi's the social strategist here at AGCO Direct and has spent a lot of time working with the dealers and with AGCO to build out their strategies and keep audiences engaged. So she's going to take you through some of that this morning. Heidi?
Hello, welcome. So today, just to go through what we're going to go over, I want to start with talking about how we can feature staff, customers, and products in new, interesting ways. Then we're going to go through some best practices for capturing photos and videos for social media. I also want to talk about how to go live on social media if you haven't done that already. And finally, we'll go through how to plan and measure your social media posts. So starting out, we want to continue to encourage you to tell a story with what you're posting on social media. And I know you're all muted, so the idea of brainstorming might be kind of a one-way street on this one, but I just want you to take a second, and if it's just you, think through this, or if there's a couple of you on the line listening together, talk through what are some stories that you could be telling at your location through your staff, your customers, and your products. So with staff, a lot of times what we see is a salesperson giving a tour of a piece of equipment, or this time of year out in a field demonstrating something that a piece of machinery can do. So I use this example from Butler Ag Equipment. They posted a video on, I think, both their Facebook and their Instagram accounts of this. It's just, I think, basically less than a minute in a field with a piece of equipment and just showing how the controls work on that. And it got pretty good engagement looking at the numbers. And so that's a really easy thing you can do by just sending a staff person into a piece of equipment with a phone or whatever to capture that. Customers, I really liked this example from Ziegler. Just picking an owner that uses a piece of equipment and telling his story and the growth of his company and how he's benefited from products from Ziegler. So that's a really great way. The idea behind all of this is that social media is meant to feel like a community, and so the more you feature people, the more it feels like a community. So someone may see this guy who owns his own landscaping business and say, "Oh, I've worked with him, or I know him, or he's so and so's son." It tends to get shared more, so people are more likely to see this and share it with their friend of, "Hey, did you see so and so's son is doing that?" And then finally, products. So I think a lot of what we do on AGCO Direct with the with the dealer social media program is we focus a lot on products and their features and what they can do. But you guys have the opportunity to really feature those products in a more customized and personal way. So think about those things again. I think this example from Butler maybe crosses the line between a staff and a product story that's being told, because you have a staff member going in a product. But anytime you can really tell a story and show something, that's a great way to feature stuff on your social spaces. So now that we've gone through that one-sided brainstorm with me, here's a few examples. So from a staff perspective, identify who your best salesperson is and consider featuring him or her in a weekly talk about new products, services, or events. So if they're a good salesperson, likely they're really good at giving a pitch, and you don't want it to feel super schmoozy or salesy, but again, getting that person on there can go a long way as far as people remembering that content and engaging with it. And you'll notice that I suggest that you consider doing it weekly. Anytime you produce regular content, it's almost like a TV show. People come to expect that this is something you have, and they're maybe not coming to your page to tune in for it, but when they see it, they'll recognize the face, they'll remember what it is, and in general, just remember it better. As far as featuring customers or telling their story, a lot of you do a really good job of capturing that proud moment when a new owner gets a piece of equipment. Those do really well. Again, they get shared a lot. Even I think they can be more effective yet if you're going to a person's home or property where you're delivering that equipment or business. It just, again, it's getting those faces out there and making yourself part of the community. And this time of year, getting in the field, it lends itself to great content. And I've seen a lot of videos recently get really good engagement just of equipment at work in the field, show them what it can really do. And with products, I think, always consider when you have a new product on the lot or a regular product on the lot, used, whatever it is, show all the parts of it. So maybe one day you show the inside and how to do something, and then you tease to the next day of you're going to show how to put an attachment on. And if there's routine maintenance involved with that, then the third day perhaps you go through some of that. So you could really focus on building your content on itself to tell that story. It doesn't need to be one 15-minute video. You could break it down into 3 5-minute videos, and that will probably increase your engagement. And the more you experiment with this, the more your viewers and customers will come to expect this content from you. And so hopefully it just continues to grow on itself. So you've heard me talk a lot about video, and I think for the most part, many of you are doing videos, but I don't want anyone to take this as a way of don't do photo or text posts anymore, but I just want to talk about the power of a video for a little bit. So these statistics do go a long way in explaining just how powerful a video can be over something like a photo post or just text. So people are 27 times more likely to click on an online video ad than a static banner ad. So that movement just catches people's eye, and for whatever reason, it draws us in more. Videos are also 1,200% get 1,200% more shares than text and images combined. Again, I think you make a more personal connection. So while they say an image or a photo contains 1,000 words, a video contains 1,000 times that. So it just has that much more to it than a photo. And viewers retain 95% of video's message compared to 10% when reading text. There's other statistics out there that many people recall a video that they've seen in the last month, whereas if you ask them to recall any text posts or photo posts, that they can't recall that. So again, it just sort of, it connects with people and it sticks with them longer. So I would encourage all of you to make more of an investment in video. And I think sometimes it can sound scary because you think, I don't know anything about making video, or I don't have any special equipment and I don't know how to edit, but it can be really simple. So just want to go over a few how to make videos in a simple way. So to create a good video, I always recommend keeping it short. And on social media, a lot of times that means it can be a minute long, up to maybe 5 minutes. I'd recommend the shorter the better, but in general, you want to make it be at least a minute because you want people to spend a little bit of time with it. In terms of good lighting, I'm not saying you need to go out and buy a bunch of expensive lights or haul them around with you when you're just shooting a quick video. A lot of times, just shooting outdoors is simply the best light you can find, or shooting near a window. I recommend if you're shooting near a window, you always want the light source behind you. So if you have somebody in the dealership talking whoever has the camera or the phone is standing with their back against the window and the light is shining on the person who's on video's face. We also tell you to hold it steady. So you guys have all seen those videos where somebody's panning all over and you start to get motion sick. Or I think of my dad's old videos from Christmas morning where it's zooming all over the room, focusing on different people. In general, you want to think of video a lot like you think of taking a still photo. So you hold very still, and if you need to show some movement, you pan slowly. So if maybe you're doing a walk around of a piece of equipment, start out with a stationary shot where you're just kind of standing still and perhaps somebody is talking and introducing something, and then you slowly walk around the piece of equipment and try not to move the phone up and down or wiggle it around too much. It just makes for a better viewing experience. I also want to encourage you to get up close to whatever it is. So our natural human nature, especially if it's someone we don't know very well, is to stand pretty far away. And I always say, if you feel comfortable at the distance you're at, take a step closer, because you just need to invade personal space a little bit to get the best video. I'm not saying, zoom in on somebody's nose or something like that, but in general, you want to get a head and shoulders shot if you're talking to a person, or if they're talking about a piece of equipment, just get it so that they fill the frame in a way that it doesn't seem like you're a football field away. As far as editing video, there's lots of apps out there, and AGCO Direct can definitely provide some suggestions for anyone who is interested in experimenting with them. In general, I like an app called Videolicious, and despite the really bad name, it's a really easy tool to use. It allows you to do some simple editing that even my young nieces and nephews who've played around with it are able to do. You can add music over the top that comes through the licensing of the app. You don't have to pay extra to have licensed music. You can add text to the screen if you maybe want to put a person's name on a video that you've created. These apps allow you to do a lot and make it look really professional in a very short period of time. But again, I don't want that to scare anyone away into feeling like I don't have the time or the skills to do something like that, because on social media, I really don't feel like you have to do those things. It can simply be a one-shot video with no text on screen and no editing. But for those of you who are looking to step it up a little bit, there are easy ways to do that as well. Another feature that ties into video and just trends in general in social media is the stories feature. So this is present on both Facebook and Instagram. And for those of you who are familiar with it, it appears at the very top of the app in circles. They go across the screen in circles, and people can tap on them, and then it goes through the images one by one. You can also do video in this format. It is exploding, and especially on Instagram, people spend much more time with the stories feature than they do with the actual feed. So when I say feed, I mean you just go into Instagram and you post a photo to your regular feed and it shows up. Stories are the items that appear at the top. They disappear after 24 hours. They are in a vertical format because that is how people hold their phones. And you can do things like add text and stickers. So I just pulled these from the Massey Ferguson Global page, and they were both archived in something called Moments. And so they gave them from two different basically campaigns or events. And you see they added text to the top. They tagged a location in the one on the right. So it allows you to do a lot of different things. And again, it makes it feel more personal. So I wouldn't worry too much about being really rigid in what you do. I always recommend experimenting with these, and rather than just posting maybe 1 or 2 a day, I would say maybe do it once a week and post 5 or 6 on that one day of the week, because in general, people consume these more in batches rather than one at a time. The reason that I suggest them is the engagement, as I mentioned, is very high right now. Also, just their appearance on the page as they appear at the top. It kind of tricks that algorithm. So there's still an algorithm to it, But if you use it regularly and people engage with it regularly, it'll show up further in or first in their feed than others do. So it's just a really great format to play around with right now, and it's especially good for things like events, or again, if you have video where you can actually show a piece of equipment working. And I don't think that you should do this over what else you're doing, but if you can use this to supplement what else you have going on, it just makes you have a more engaged page or presence on social media. So next I want to talk a little bit about going live. So Facebook and Instagram both have this feature. You can go live on YouTube. I would recommend Facebook and Instagram if you're just getting started. Both of them are very easy, and I would recommend whichever platform you tend to have the most viewers on, or if it's a platform you're looking to grow your viewers on. So let's say you have a pretty good size audience on Facebook. I would say that would be a really good place to go live to reach all of those audience members. But maybe you just started your Instagram page, so you're trying to attract and engage new users. Again, that would be a good instance to try going live. You currently can't do them simultaneously, but there's a few ways where you can sort of go live on one and then record that and then push it live on the other platform. And if you would like any help on how to do that, as always, you can reach out to AGCO Direct. So here's just some suggestions for what you could do if you want to go live. You could host a Q&A. So I know a lot of the dealers are rolling out Fendt on their lots for the first time. Hosting a Q&A with maybe your top salesperson again, just telling a little bit about Fendt, because it in some ways is an unknown brand to many of the people in the North American audience. You could teach viewers how to do something. So perhaps you have, as we get into the snow season and you want to talk about attaching a snowplow to a CUE piece of equipment, that would be a good instance for that. If you want to announce a new product, so again, as you launch Fendt, this would be a good place to really make a big splash. Perhaps you have somebody drive it onto the lot and you have some balloons up and make a big party about the fact that you have this new product. You could also just explain and display a product. So maybe one day you go live with the announcement, and then the next day or the following sort of few days after, you go through and explain some of its features in a series of live events. Just to mention too, as I talk about video being very important, all live posts, you have the option to then post as a video on your page after it's no longer live, so people can still view it. So it's a good way to kind of kill two birds with one stone in that sense. We've also seen really good engagement on contest announcements. So if you're running a contest such as a toy giveaway or any sort of giveaway, any contest really, taking a moment to announce that contest winner in a live capacity is a fun way. I've seen crazy engagement on some of those. So we always recommend that if you do this, you rig it a little bit. You pick the winner beforehand, and then contact them to let them know that you'll be announcing their name online. You just don't want anyone to be surprised, especially if it's a customer. So while you'll make it appear that you're pulling a live winner on during this live event, you actually want to probably do that beforehand and just let the person know and make sure they're going to claim the prize, just to kind of complete the circle on that. So those are some ideas, but there's definitely a lot more uses for live. Some people use live as a weekly check-in just on what's new. Lots of things you can do. And if you ever wanted to brainstorm some ideas, or you have something new that your dealership is doing and you're not sure how you could go live, we just recommend that you reach out and we could definitely help you come up with some ways to do it. I'll also use this opportunity to talk about our content safari offering that AGCO Direct does. We send a photographer and videographer to your location, help you gather whatever content it is you're trying to do, and give it back to you to use however you'd like. We can do some heavier editing on it if you want. If you just want a few simple videos, we do that as well, but we try to just knock out a lot of content at once. We've also done some in-person training on things like going live and creating video yourself. So if you feel like that's something your staff would benefit from, definitely reach out to us on that. And this is just a slide. If you haven't gone live on Facebook before, I'll caution you that Facebook is always updating their app and their desktop version. And so while this may look like this today, tomorrow you might log in and it might look different. If you can't find the latest directions on how to do this, definitely reach out and we can help you out. But in general, you just pull up your page and you tap publish. You tap add to your post and there's a live video option. So you can see I added a thumbnail in here where you can do that. You write a brief description and then tag any other people or pages. So if you're rolling out something with Fent, you could tag the Fent post in that, or if you're doing an event with another business, you could tag them. And then you simply start going live. It gives you a 3-second countdown. And then when you're done, you just tap finish. It also gives you an option then to publish the live video to your page as a video for people to watch after the fact. I will say, your first couple times you go live, it's really daunting because you have this idea of, oh my gosh, I'm live, I can't mess up. This medium is meant to feel very organic, so it's fine to go live and just feel like you're having a conversation with your viewers and your customers. So I wouldn't overthink it, and rather than coming out with a big bang and a really big sort of live event that you want to do, I would experiment with a few sort of smaller things. Maybe it's just a Q&A with your employee of the month, or a Q&A with a customer or something like that. But don't overthink it too much, because you want to sort of experiment with it at first. And then once you get comfortable with it, it gets to be no big deal, like any other video that you would do. So talking a little bit about how you plan what you're doing. So I've given you a lot of ideas for what you can do with your social media. And I think a lot of times it's hard and it can be overwhelming to think, well, you want me to do all of these things and you tell me what works best and I'm already doing all of this other stuff. So how do you actually plan that out and make it something that you can execute on regularly and feel like it's not completely all-consuming to you? So the first thing that I encourage each of you to do is just decide what business goals you're trying to accomplish using your social spaces. So I think a lot of businesses have Facebook pages because they feel like they need to have them, and I would agree with that. You need to have a Facebook page this day and age, but what you use it for could be really different. So some businesses might be using it to recruit new employees. Some businesses are merely trying to sell more products. You may be trying to encourage, parts and maintenance. So think about what business goals you want to achieve and really personalize those to what you can do on your social spaces. So rather than just feeling like your social space needs to have everything all the time, what do you really want to accomplish with it? I also encourage you to meet and plan monthly. So right now when I talk to people, I hear a lot that they post when they have stuff, or maybe they're planning a week out at a time. I think to be really strategic and to be meeting those business goals you're trying to achieve, you need to be thinking a month out. And I don't mean this has to be a really long, drawn out meeting. It can simply be a half-hour get together with just you or a few people who put their heads together on this stuff and just do a rough sketch of what it is you want to post. In general, we recommend that you're posting about 5 times a week on Facebook and Instagram. You can post a little less on Instagram if you're just getting into it. But on Facebook, so if you're signed up for a number of calendars through AGCO Direct, what more can you do to customize your content and bring more of your community into it to sort of meet those best practices guidelines? And it might just be that you have a post a week that you need to plan out, or if you want to try to do a live event every month, when is it going to be and what is it? Just sit down and actually do a rough sketch of what it is you want to do. It actually makes it a lot easier as you go through the day to day. Then maybe once a week you're going through and scheduling something, or maybe on that monthly meeting you actually go in and schedule things out. I also think it's a good time to experiment with things. So again, keeping in line with what your business goals are and focusing on what matters, you can experiment. So focus on what matters means you don't just make content for the sake of making content. You feel like you need to have a post, so you simply put something together. I would always focus on what's going to move the needle, and at the same time, I don't want that to impede your idea of experimenting. So on social media, the things that get the most engagement are the things that tend to be kind of quirky, and in general, you would say, well, why would they be doing this? But it gets people talking about your brand, your products, your business, just all of those things in general. So don't be afraid to experiment a little bit. And then as you figure out what works, refine. So if you've been doing the same type of post for years and you see that your engagement is just not really there, don't feel like you need to continue doing it. Feel free to probably during that monthly planning session go through and say, okay, what's not working? Or perhaps you experimented with something and it was really ineffective. Okay, we're not going to try that again, but what else can we try? And then once you've gone through and created a plan, you can begin to have an idea of how to measure your success. So again, if your goal is maybe your goal is that you want a lot of new customers and you have a lot of competition in your market, and so you want a lot of new users or a lot of new followers, then that should be one of your measurables that you look at. If you're trying to increase engagement, then you want things like likes, comments, and shares to go up. So basically, you want to just measure the things that matter. It can be really daunting to go into that insights view on your Facebook page and see all of these different graphs and not know what they mean. And so as long as you're able to align sort of what you want to do with your Facebook page to what you're doing on social media, you should be able to find some measurable goals. And if you wanted help setting some of these things, as always, you can reach out to us and we're happy to help work through that with you. Because as I mentioned, different dealers have different goals on their social media spaces. And then capitalize it on success. So if you see that something is proving very successful, consider boosting it or reach out to us to boost it. And then also just be aware that sometimes things don't work. So social media, because you're playing on a third-party platform like Facebook or Google or something like that, they can change the rules at any time. And so something that has worked in the past or was working for a long time, they change something a little bit and it affects that success. So sometimes it just won't work and you have to go back to the drawing board and rethink about it. But it also shouldn't discourage you because social media is constantly changing and it continues to grow in interest and uses. So we just encourage you to experiment and measure what you can on it. So with that, we will open it up to any questions that you have. Liz, I don't know if you had any come in as we were talking.
Yeah, I've got one here. I know we have a Facebook page, but we don't have access to it anymore. Can AGCO Direct help me create a new page?
Yes, we would be able to do that. So sometimes what has happened is, somebody has left that was the administrator on your Facebook page. Facebook makes it more difficult today because they're very concerned with privacy and fake accounts, but you can reclaim that space or get it shut down if you want to simply just create a new one. But yes, we can definitely help you with that.
Another one here. What was the name of the editing app?
It's called Videolicious. So it's like delicious, but Videolicious first. I think it's an awful name, but nonetheless, it is a good app to use. And you can get a free version or an enterprise version, and it's not very expensive. It just gives you a few more options for editing, but the free version works just fine too. And if you wanted the name of others, we can get you a list of those as well.
Does AGCO Direct do video editing?
We do, and actually we've done this a lot lately. So I mentioned earlier in the webinar that we do something called content safaris. So the idea is that we go hunt for content, we come to you and get a bunch of stuff, but sometimes it's the fact that you just don't know how to put them together and you already have all of the assets and you just need us to put together some sort of, maybe it's a TV spot or a special event video for your Facebook page or something. We definitely can do that for you.
One last one here. Do you recommend Instagram stories over Facebook? Which is most effective?
So right now, it depends a little bit on your audience. So if you have a really large audience on Facebook, I'm still going to recommend that you do that. But in general, Instagram stories have better engagement than Facebook stories. I, for the time being, would recommend that you do both. If you're using the Instagram app, there's a really easy way that you can actually publish directly to Instagram stories and also to Facebook stories, basically at the same time with just the click of a button essentially on your phone. So I'd recommend you do both if you have a large Facebook audience, but it's a great way to grow your Instagram audience. And I continually talk to clients who are just blown away with the kind of engagement they get on their Instagram stories. So it's a little bit the answer is both.
Awesome. Okay, well, that is all the questions that we have. Thank you everyone who joined the webinar today. If you have questions that come up, feel free to contact your AGCO Direct representative and we can help you from there. With that, have a wonderful day. Thank you.